Coming up on State of Events, Governor Newsom's latest legislation affecting Californians.
Russia continuing their advancement into Ukraine, and much more coming up on State of Events.
Good afternoon and welcome to State of Events. I'm Callie Lawson-Freeman.
And I'm Angel Gonzalez.
Starting off the day with breaking news here in the Golden State, California Governor Gavin Newsom issued an executive order requiring water cutbacks on water districts. The administration says they will allow local retailers to set conservation needs and restrict select grass watering. California has been experiencing a severe drought, officials say. The law would put permits for new wells to stock up on groundwater many rely on for drinking. Newsom hopes the bill will create fair rationing on the state's low water supply.
Californians could soon be getting some relief from their ever-rising gas prices. Last week, Democratic lawmakers proposed a gas rebate for all car owners in the state in the form of $400 in debit cards. For those who do not have cars, the state would pay for bus and train fare for 3 months. That would be enough free rides for 3 million people per day. Due to the pandemic-induced inflation and Russia invasion in Ukraine, gas prices have taken a big hit lately. The average for gas prices states hit a new record for $5.88 per gallon. That is a $2 increase from last year.
It's the slap heard around the world. Sunday night's Oscar ceremony came to a halt when a feud erupted between comedian Chris Rock and Oscar winner Will Smith. Rock decided to make a joke about his wife, Jada Pinkett Smith's buzzed hair.
Uh-oh, Richard! Oh, wow! Wow!
The joke received laughs, but upset Pinkett Smith, who has been open about her alopecia diagnosis. Smith walked up towards Rock and slapped him soon after. Rock rolled with the punches while Smith continued to curse at him. The slap has many debating about Smith's use of violence and Pinkett Smith's alopecia diagnosis, a balding disease many live with. Tuesday morning, Smith responded to the incident on Instagram, posting a photo saying, quote, "This is a season for healing, and I'm here for it," end quote.
The Biden administration is expected to give Americans over the age of 50 the option to receive a second COVID booster shot. The New York Times reported that the decision can come as early as next week. The FDA's Vaccine Advisory Committee is expected to consider the additional booster shot proposal on April 6th. New data provides evidence that a fourth coronavirus vaccine can boost protections against severe illness. The action by the White House would not amount to an official second booster recommendation, but would give everyone over the age of 50 the option.
San Francisco Mayor London Breed declared a state of emergency last December. A likely guess would have been COVID-19. However, drug overdose involving fentanyl was the real problem. Aaliyah Stokel has the story.
The pandemic has met its match in death toll. According to the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, there were more than 1,300 drug overdoses, with fentanyl being on top of the list.
The loss of life in the pandemic, which every lost life is tragic. We had over 700 people alone die due to a drug overdose last year in San Francisco.
Raymond Castleblanche, former member of the California State Board of Pharmacy, explained there isn't enough detox resources to help users recover.
Brain is just like, must stop the dopamine, crash, must replace dopamine. And so your brain then just leads you to your next hit. And so the person who's continually using is not really a weak or immoral person. They're a person whose brain is on autopilot.
With the city desperately searching for answers, some say it is easier to get drugs than it is to get help.
The San Francisco Chronicle takes a closer look into the lives of those who are in the midst of the drug crisis. Reporter Trisha Fedani hopes her story sheds a different kind of light.
Just to remember that people who are struggling are human, and they have families and hopes and dreams of their own, and people don't want this. And I think the more that we can remind readers that those who are struggling in this crisis, they really, really matter.
Organizations like the DOPE Project, one of the largest naloxone distributing programs in the country, a life-saving medication to help reverse the effect of opioid overdose within minutes.
It was in 2019 where we started to see what I would call a new landscape and an incredible peak of the overdose death, which I have to say, because of the DOE project, in San Francisco, we don't see the numbers that you see across the country. So because we already had set up a system to really distribute Narcan in the communities most impacted, which means you want naloxone in the hands of people who use drugs, their families and friends, because those are going to be the ones who are going to intervene if someone overdoses.
Other initiatives like Urban Alchemy have taken to the streets to help clean and ensure communities feel safe. With State of Events, I'm Aaliyah Stokel.
As things intensify in Russia, President Biden remarks on Vladimir Putin are causing a global reaction. CNN's Chris Wen has the story.
As Russia intensifies its missile strikes on Ukrainian cities in the west and the east, heavy fighting also continues in the south, where the mayor of the port city of Mariupol has called for a complete evacuation of the remaining population. A weeks-long siege by Russian forces has flattened the city, leaving an unknown number of civilians dead and forcing hundreds of thousands of people from their homes. Intense fighting also continuing in the suburbs of Kyiv, as Russian forces attempt to establish a corridor around the capital to block supply routes, according to a Ukrainian defense official. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he's ready to accept a neutral, non-nuclear status as part of a peace deal with Russia, but any agreement would have to be put to the Ukrainian people in a referendum.
This was the first point of principle for the Russian Federation, as I recall. And as far as I remember, they started the war because of this.
Meanwhile, President Joe Biden triggering a political storm after going off script during a speech in Poland.
For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power.
White House officials and Biden himself now trying to downplay the remarks, saying he was really arguing that Vladimir Putin can't be allowed to exercise his power over neighboring countries.
It was expressing my outrage. He shouldn't remain in power. Just like, bad people shouldn't continue to do bad things. But it doesn't mean we have a fundamental policy to do anything to take Putin down.
In Washington, I'm Chris Wynn reporting.
SFSU's Hospitality and Tourism Management Department is doing their part in support of Ukraine and are inviting students and members of the community to do the same. On April 6th, a dinner will be held in support of World Central Kitchen, which is a nonprofit organization that provides food in response to natural disasters, climate, and community crises. Ticket prices are $15 for students and $30 for general admission. All proceeds from this event will go toward benefiting Ukrainian refugees. This event will take place in the Vista Room at Burke Hall, located here at San Francisco State University.
As COVID mandates continue to lift, one event finally transitioned from virtual events. Reporter Jenny Shao has a story.
It's been almost a year since shelter in place was lifted. Since then, the convention scene has been gradually coming back to life.
It's been 2 years since the annual Game Developers Conference was held live at the Moscone Center. Attendees and exhibitors were happy to meet face-to-face again. Exhibitors were especially happy to show off their innovations live and in person.
We really miss the in-person experience, especially since our product is something that you have to show off in the in-person experience way. There really isn't a workaround to showing it through a digital screen here and there. Of course you can, because that essentially is the end application, the end site for that user, but they don't get to see the actor in the space and see how precise and easy it is to stream this kind of stuff with our motion capture technology.
Demonstrations aside, people were even happier to ditch digital meetings.
It's been amazing just to meet with such a great group of people in the gaming industry. I've been able to connect with friends all around the world that have traveled out to GDC here in San Francisco, and it's so nice to be back together in person. It's been okay to work with people remotely and communicate over Zoom calls and virtual meetings, but to see everybody together again in person is just such a special thing.
Everyone I spoke to expressed excitement and joy at attending physically in person. They were all happy to engage with their fellow game developers from near and afar. There are a few that noted the scale of attendees was much lower than that of pre-COVID times.
It is definitely different. There's not as many people attending. There's not as many sponsors here either. So it just feels, a little died down at GDC.
Although masks and proof of vaccination or negative COVID results are mandatory, this didn't dampen anyone's enthusiasm. Reporting for State of Events, I'm Jenny G. Shaw.
So Jenny, do we know how this convention stacked up against the last one pre-COVID?
Well, in 2019, the attendance was around 29,000. This year, it was around 17,000. So that's down by about 41%.
Thanks for that great reporting, Jenny.
Coming up after the break, March Madness heats up.
And later in the show, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man shows up to campus, so stay tuned. Welcome back to State of Events. And now for our special segment, highlighting athletics, State of Sports. The March Madness men's basketball tournament finally returned to San Francisco for the first time since 1939, last week in what was expected to be a major economic opportunity for the city. The Warriors Chase Center hosted two men's Sweet 16 games on Thursday and the 24th, Saturday the 26th. Tickets were as high as $2,000, but many fans gathered at the Thrive City Plaza where they were able to view the thrilling games on a base screen right outside the arena.
Basketball took over the red carpet as well. The Queen of Basketball won the Oscar for Best Short Documentary on Sunday. The 22-minute film honors Lucia Harris, who scored the first basket in Olympic women's basketball history and was the first woman officially drafted by an NBA team. The film was executive produced by Shaquille O'Neal and Stephen Curry and directed by Ben Proudfoot, who used his acceptance speech to urge President Joe Biden to facilitate the release of two-time Olympic gold medalist and top women's player Brittany Griner, who has been jailed in Russia since February.
The National Football League is pledging to increase diversity among key leadership positions. As NFL owners meet in Palm Beach, Florida, the organization announced a new 6-person diversity committee. The group's job will be to bring more minorities into key leagues positions like coaching and team ownership. The announcement comes after the former Miami Dolphins head coach Brian Flores filed a class action lawsuit against the NFL claiming racial discrimination. The league's commissioner says the NFL will always continue working with civil rights leaders and experts to increase diversity.
Today is March 29th, which means one thing for basketball fans like me, March Madness. Reporter Trevor Ferguson has been covering the thrill and agony of the bracket.
It's officially the end of March, which marks the annual battle between bosses and employees and teachers and students as productivity turns away from the workplace and to college basketball. The March Madness Bracket Bonanza. 68 teams, one champion. Every March, college basketball captivates the eyes and attention of every fan, athlete, and sports bettor as the best teams in the nation embark on a single elimination tournament. According to Boyd's Bet, roughly 70 million college brackets are filled out every year. The longest any bracket has ever been perfect for was a solid 49 consecutive games in 2019. There are 67 total games throughout the entire tournament. The NCAA claims that there is just a 1 in 9.2 quintillion chance of getting a perfect bracket. But that doesn't stop countless people from around the U.S. betting absurd amounts of money on their brackets. According to the American Gaming Association, legal sports betting when it comes to March Madness is at over $9 billion per year.
I would just say it's the madness, man. I want to join in on the action with everyone, and I want to, place some money down and hopefully win. Obviously, this year it's been a pretty bad year. It's sort of tough when you're betting against the Peacocks 3 games in a row.
It's one of those things where it's fun. It's something cool to do, I guess, but there's no reason to be blowing all your money on it. I think that take a look at like going to a casino. Obviously the casino is going to be the people who have the better odds. It's kind of the same thing when you're betting on sport.
With a boss button embedded into the March Madness website, it's not a secret that workplace productivity falls off a cliff when the season rolls around. According to Challenger Gray and Christmas Incorporated, U.S. employers lose an average of $13.3 billion of productivity during the tournament.
When March Madness starts, I unplug my work monitor, just doing, trying to focus on work on the one, but I got a 34-inch ultra wide monitor. I've got my work monitor is vertical, so I stack 2 games there, and I've got game here, We're firing on all cylinders when it's March Madness.
The national championship will be played on April 4th at Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans.
Absolutely love a good March Madness Cinderella story, and the St. Peter's Peacocks have been a blast to watch. What do you think will be their lasting impact on the tournament?
Well, Callie, no disrespect to Oral Roberts. I'm sure it's a fantastic school, but I don't think a single person in this room has heard of that school before they made their Sweet 16 run just last year. The fact that we got to see a 15 seed in the Peacocks get to the Elite 8 this year, we're going to be talking about them for a long time to come.
Thanks, Trevor, for the update. Coming up after the break, an event just in time to celebrate Cesar Chavez Day.
Welcome back to State of Events. An SFSU alumna is making us all proud here in the Bay. SF graduate Sarah Beth Maney took this eye-catching photo of Supreme Court nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson and her daughter. Maney is a photojournalist for the New York Times and a 2019 graduate. The New York Times shared her famed photo Thursday afternoon, and it went absolutely viral. Pictured is Jackson's daughter, 17-year-old Layla, smiling at her mother with pride. Jackson was nominated back in February and is finishing up her confirmation hearings. Maney told the New York Times, quote, "I knew how much it revealed in her admiration for her mother as a Black woman," end quote.
Remembering a legacy, Stockton's very own Mexican Heritage Center and Gallery held its 10th annual Cesar Chavez breakfast after putting it on hold for nearly 2 years due to COVID. Reporter Elias Stockho has more.
That's right, Angel. The gallery came alive with music and food to honor civil rights activist Cesar Chavez, who continues to touch the lives of many communities today, including this one.
Gallery in Stockton celebrated its 10th annual breakfast honoring the legacy of Cesar Chavez, raffling off items such as artwork, pictures, and t-shirts that represented the United Farm Workers flag. The president of the association, Gracie Madrid, has a passion for helping her community of Stockton remember a labor rights hero.
Its purpose is so that we won't forget what Cesar Chavez meant to us. He did a lot. He gave dignity to farm workers, and he did so much when he was alive, and so his spirit lives on within all of us.
The great humanitarian Cesar Chavez has made an everlasting impact on communities all over, even today, giving hope to people who are still advocating for justice.
Activist Chico Gonzalez showcased his artwork that reflects social justice throughout the entire gallery.
Bring the message of the strike that we're on right now in Sacramento. We're in day 3. So I'm here to share my work and some words of wisdom, I guess.
Community leaders gathered to honor award-winning educator Chico Gonzalez for his activism in his community. Longtime volunteer Armando Valerio says it's about creating a space to give back to the Hispanic community.
It's very important, I think, from the Hispanic perspective, that there's not enough venues in which the Hispanic community can participate. So the gallery gives back to the community, specifically the community in general, the Hispanic community, with the arts and with some of the events they hold at some of the school sites for art. So we really encourage people to get more involved, and the younger generation really trying to grasp them a little bit more so they can participate, so they can really understand our heritage.
This gallery plans to have more events like these. With City Events, I'm Elias Stokel.
What was it like for the community members to be together once again for Cesar Chavez Day after being closed?
The scene was heartwarming, and there were much needed reunions going on as well, Angel.
Thank you for a glimpse into the scene, Aaliyah. San Francisco State has its very own friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He's made his debut a few weeks back during the scene on campus. At one point or another, we've all wanted to be a superhero, and on a day when trouble was afoot, one brave man decided to take a leap of faith. That's right, San Francisco State has its very own Spider-Man. And no, it's not Tom Holland, but a residential student right here on campus. One of the reporters was fortunate enough to get a one-on-one with the individual, but keep his secret identity. An agreement was made to meet virtually, and he began to tell his origin story.
You know what? I love Spider-Man, so I'm hoping I'll encounter the masked protector one of these days. I'm looking forward to that.
I'm a huge Batman fan, so hopefully maybe one day we can have like a little crossover of all the superheroes coming on the campus.
Yeah, like a multiverse crossover type thing.
What a day it'll be, yes.
Oh, that's all we have for you this time. Thanks for joining us.
And don't forget to subscribe to our State of Events channel on YouTube.
For State of Events, I'm Callie Lawson-Freeman.
And I'm Angel Gonzalez. Have a great day.